Hi, hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. So basically, our today's topic is still related to SME and specifically sustainable finance for SMEs. We know that SMEs play a critical role in the ASEAN economies, and it's not less important than the large corps. So that's what we know. And of course, when it comes to sustainable finance or ESG as a whole, it's very important that we bear in mind that SMEs play a pivotal role in terms of our journey towards carbon net zero or towards a transition towards a low carbon economy, and also resilience for our Asian markets as a whole. Okay, so my name is Carl. I am a director at Accuracy based in Hong Kong office. I have been in a consulting career for the past 15 years. And obviously ESG and sustainable consulting is one of my focus areas. I work with banks, I work with associations, I deliver projects for both large corps and SMEs as well. And today, I'm really glad that I'm joined by a few great ladies and leaders in our Asian markets. So they are Dorf, the National Deputy President of SME Malaysia. And then we have Maureen, yes, the Chief Sustainable Officer at UOB, and she's also a co-chair of Joint Committee on Climate Change SME Focus Group. And then we also have Shahida, the COO and also co-founder of Pandas, a leading technology and data solution for climate change in the markets. Okay, so if we are ready, I will jump start to the first question. Maybe I will address the first question to Dove. Dove, so we know that SME is a backbone of the Malaysian economy, and you're based in Malaysia. But to what extent are the SMEs in Malaysia incorporating ESG principles in their business operations?
Right. Hi, Carl. Thanks for the question. So as you rightly said it, SMEs are the backbone of the Malaysian economy. So they are counting about 97.4% of the business establishments in Malaysia. So the question is that as the economic backbone, to what extent, right? To be very, very frank, that if you want to build the SME resilience, let's look at the problem and tackle the issues from the ground and be very honest and transparent. And the general consensus from our members is that there's simply no urgency and no incentives that's good enough to drive the adoption of green financing or ESG for now. And that's in a nutshell. So actually, many of them has heard or know about ESG in one way or another. But the question is there any action that's been taken to adopt in their business, right? Well, mostly no, for sure. And still many of our members are not aware of what does ESG entail. And these three words, that the three-letter abbreviation are somehow definitely relevant or related to them, but not the core of their business or bread and butter. So it's a very low adoption rate generally.
Okay, thanks, Dov. Sounds like there are lots of room to improve, and also that means a lot of opportunities to improve.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so maybe next up for Maureen. Maureen, as the co-chair of the SME Focus Group in the Joint Committee on Climate Change, how do you help SMEs to adopt sustainable and low carbon practices?
Okay, thank you, Carl. And if I can further add to what Dov has actually shared, in Malaysia, we have close to about 1.2 million SMEs establishments, with about 18,000 in the medium size, over 200,000 in small categories, and the remaining are the micro SMEs. And given the different sectoral progress when it comes to ESG, we can expect SMEs' motivations as well as maturity level do varies significantly. And on the ground, I do see increasing number of early adopters SMEs who are mostly those in the supply chain of multinationals and public listed companies, those SMEs in export or sectors where certifications are required. And we do have few progressive ones, especially in the pure play space, who wants to be ahead of the curve. And Dolph is correct. Despite the different starting points, studies have indicated SMEs do share common impediments when it comes to ESG: knowledge, cost, and lack of support. And whilst banks have supported the early adopters SMEs, more handholding will be required for what I call the late bloomers or the majority of the SMEs. And hence, under the Joint Climate Change Committee or JC3, which is co-chaired by the Central Bank of Malaysia and Securities Commission, the SME Focus Group or SFG was formed last August, comprises regulators, financial institutions, ministries, and ESG experts. And we have adopted a multi-pronged approach to guide and help SMEs in the ESG journey. Last year, we launched a one-stop ESG Jumpstart portal, offering SMEs foundational knowledge from step-by-step guide to available training programs, grants, incentive, green financing offered by various institutions, as well as useful resources such as SME disclosure framework. And this portal is relevant for all SMEs, and the intent is for self-learning purposes. And since launch in October 2023, the portal has attracted over 2,000 visitors. And this is just a beginning. We are enhancing the portal to be more interactive as well as up-to-date. And this year, to complement the portal, SFG has planned out series of engagement programs. And probably this is one area where SFG can work very closely with DOF and the SME associations. So we collaborate with various agencies and associations, targeting SMEs in critical sectors first: manufacturing, energy, agriculture, where the pressure to adopt ESG is more intense. So the program lineup is available on the Jumpstart portal if SMEs are interested to participate. And during the engagement process, we share material ESG topics from what is ESG to why is ESG important for SMEs and how to kickstart ESG. And more importantly, the session is for us to also gather feedback from SMEs. And also, I think, to understand from them what has been useful and what more can be done to further accelerate and help the SMEs in their ESG adoption. Back to you, Carl.
Thanks, Maureen. It's very impressive. We can see that how much work you have done to help SMEs to become more sustainable. It's really important for the SMEs and for the overall economy, for sure. And then maybe the next question for Shahida. Yeah, so we know that you are co-founder of Pandas, which is a system or data solution for climate change. What do you see as the major challenges of SMEs when they are facing this transition to low carbon or facing climate change?
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, for us, first and foremost, what we have seen is that SMEs are actually well aware and educated in terms of ESG and sustainability. Of course, as Maureen mentioned earlier, it is very targeted to the SMEs that are impacted in terms of their business. Now, what are the most important challenges that we have seen on the ground? We run a comprehensive program that involves both private and public sectors and private sectors. It goes from the top down, whereby you have anchor companies and their supply chain on board on this program. So the number one challenge is they already have the training. They know how to do reporting and they know how to calculate the carbon emissions. So the number one challenge is, Shahida, what's next? How do we really get the ball moving? How can I differentiate my business from the next SME, from the next supplier? They want to understand how they can really start to decarbonize and tap into the financing. I think that's the number one challenge that we have seen for the SMEs, because as we have also observed, last year, a lot of the conferences center around ESG. A lot of educational materials. A lot of the banks actually have gone ahead being proactive to educate their SME clients on ESG. So now that they understand, they are now eager to say, okay, how do I now use the information, the data I have in hand, to take it a step further? What is next? What do I do? Perhaps, in order to be able to apply for a tender. So how do I differentiate myself? How do I tap to this green financing to start to decarbonize my operations? And I think that's where the challenge that we have seen in the past few months.
Thanks, Shahida. Yes, I think we cannot agree more with you. I can hear that you're saying, obviously, one of the biggest challenges for SMEs is how to access to green finance. And yeah, this will be my next question for Dolph, actually, to see how you address it or to get your insights. So from your understanding, what are the major barriers that are stopping the SMEs from getting access to green finance? And how do you advise them to overcome those barriers?
Yeah, I think, of course, thanks, Carl, for the question again. Because there are a lot of efforts that we have seen from the association. We have been approached by a lot of service providers almost every week that they will come back and tell us that there's a lot of solutions available. But then when we go back to the members and talk to them, the common question is always there's lack of need or demand. So there's lack of urgency that drive them forward. Because sometimes you hear that some people say there's a lot in incentives, lack of incentives, but I don't agree personally because I believe in demand and supply. So when there's a need, there's a demand, then there's a desire to look for the best financing options, which could be as what Shahida said, so there's a lot available, which could be banking access or even government or even grant or incentives they are looking for. Of course, when we look at the barriers in a nutshell, let's look at those with more exposure and that require ESG immediately. So those are probably wanting to start somewhere, and ESG adoption is still a challenging effort from them. So the common issues that we have gathered are a couple of them. Number one is like the resources is always very scarce for SMEs, right? With very limited resources in terms of financing capability, human resources, data, and technology, there's always a challenge of setting the priority because they, as I said earlier, it's not their bread and butter. So they don't usually place a very high priority in terms of ESG adoption. So because of that, they don't really look into the financing options. But of course, when we come to priority, that's the question number two already. There's different priorities in their business. So it's not a life and death situation when they don't adopt ESG. That's why ESG is slow because they think that they can always wait. So that's a barrier number two. Of course, number three issue that we always see is that insufficient know-how or knowledge about ESG, especially by the SME owners, whom are usually the top management or the leader within the company. And while they're very much involved in the daily operation of their business. So when the leader, the owner themselves don't have the sufficient knowledge, they actually hold back and wait. So that's another issue why the adoption is slow, and that's a big barrier. So owner apart, of course, their manpower and the human resources aspect, which is issue number four, lack of manpower or the expertise to design, implement and integrate on the ESG system that's sustainable. Because we're not just talking about implementing it today. What's going to continue? The continuous improvement, the continuous measurement, and the adoption later on. You need the internal manpower to actually support that, not just working with external party. So that's another thing that's holding them back at this moment, especially when there's no urgency that they see it. Of course, another issue is that we see there's a lot of lack of accredited certification. So the question is always like who to follow, which is the standard. The most that we have now is like a lot of them are scorecard guidelines. There's no certificate that's accredited by any accreditation body from what we can understand. So although there's a lot of service providers say that you can actually follow my way and it's free to start now, but the question is there's no things as a free lunch. So what's next? What comes after that? So the costing, ultimately, what's the total cost? That's actually something that they hold them back again. So that's another barrier that we look at. And then I think in Malaysia, MITI actually released the IESG framework last year, but they focus on manufacturers only. which is catering only like 5.6% of the total SME in Malaysia. So as Maureen mentioned earlier on, of course, the critical sectors are the main focus now, but then 80% are service-based, right? Although we know that they are not directly involved or affected today, they can't actually not prepared. So, but then the current support from the government only cater for manufacturers. So they are actually at a loss at this moment, like 80%. So what do we do? How do we actually get ourselves prepared? Because there's not enough answer and there's no accreditation, so they all wait and see. That's why at this juncture, we hope that perhaps the government's role and a one-to-one matching effort and help is very important to actually help them to adopt that. So that's my take of the barrier side. All right, back to you, Carl.
Thanks, Dov. Yes, so we hear from you is about the lack of a priority, or is a lack of resources, and it can be lack of accreditation as well. Yeah, so for Maureen, I know that you work very collaboratively with policymakers, the government, and also financial institutions as well. How do you think you can work collaboratively to drive the priority or to really meet the specific or unique needs of SMEs when it comes to sustainable finance?
I think to help SMEs to access green and sustainable financing, definitely we need cross-sectors collaboration. And I would say there are probably two distinct efforts when it comes to collaboration in this space. I mean, one is between regulator, policymakers, and financial institutions. And the other one that I'm seeing more and more of is initiated by the respective financial institutions themselves with their respective ecosystem partners. So at the industry level, Central Bank of Malaysia, they have this low-cost transition fund, or LCTF, we call it. And progressive SMEs are already benefiting from LCTF. And this is a scheme where banks and regulators provide green financing on a matching basis. And this scheme is a good reflection of how public-private partnerships can play a pivotal role in helping SMEs to unlock, I would say, their ESG opportunities. And of course, one thing that has to be done and needs to be done more of is to increase SME awareness on the availability of LCTF, which is offered through all banks actually. And this scheme is also affordable for SMEs to adopt green practices and covers extensive range of initiatives, from the very simple ones such as installing solar panel to even embedding circularity into their processes or even obtaining green certification. But there's one thing that SME needs to be aware of. Unlike assessing conventional financing, there is governance and transparency aspect that SME has to fulfill when it comes to green financing. And this is to ensure the funds that we actually offer are used for the right purpose and to achieve the intended impact, such as reduction in carbon emission. So that's something that I think a mindset shift that we always have to advocate to SMEs and also businesses when it comes to assessing green and sustainable financing. And the other available financing is Bank Negara's high-tech and green facility. And LCTF funds are for companies that want to go green, whilst HTG funds are enablers for those green tech, digital, and biotechnology solutions. So if you look at it, whether you're adopters or whether you're the enablers of ESG, of green tech, there are affordable funds available at the industry level. And what's also important to highlight is my fellow banking peers in Malaysia have also stepped up their efforts to further support SMEs in their ESG journey. And like what Shahida mentioned, our role is really beyond financing. And I can't speak on behalf of the other banks, but at least from a UOB perspective, we have rolled out series of innovative solutions and programs to help our SME clients transition. And we collaborate with our ecosystem partners. Last year, we launched our UOB Sustainability Compass in collaboration with PwC. And this is a very easy to use tool for SME to assess their ESG maturity stage. And this tool is not a silver bullet, but it is a good structured tool to help SMEs and show them where are their gaps and how they can kickstart and progress on their sustainability journey. And we have also rolled out our U series risk solution. And this is to help SMEs with their decarbonization efforts, whether it's about switching to solar, adopting energy efficient, or even better fleet management. And what we have also seen is through this program, our clients, even the SMEs, can actually reduce their carbon footprint and be more cost efficient in the mid to long run. So what I would encourage is for SMEs to actually talk to their bankers and maybe access our ESG Jumpstart portal to find out more about the various ESG program and financing that can potentially benefit their business. And whether it's about staying relevant, whether it's about expanding market reach or unlocking new green opportunities. I always share with my SMEs client, the global shift towards sustainability is moving ahead with or without them. And for SMEs, my humble suggestion is always to start assessing their ESG impact to their business, even if they don't start the action, but start assessing how ESG impact their business. And it is better for them to embark on the journey now and carve a competitive advantage when the government grants, incentives, and private capital are available, rather than when the stakeholders start to price in unmitigated risk into the cost of non-compliance or financing later.
Thanks, Maureen. It's very comprehensive. Yeah, very informative. Thanks a lot about the low-cost transition funds, other bank products, and the tools that you have created for the SMEs. So being aware of the time limitation of this section, maybe I will just go directly to the final question. So it's a $1 million final question. In 10 seconds, how do you describe the single biggest action that can be taken to help unlock sustainable finance for SMEs? Any ideas?
Yes, perhaps I can share.
Okay,
I think
please, Saida.
in 10 seconds, I think the answer is to help the SMEs to measure, manage, disclose, and gain access to financing to move ahead.
Yeah, nice.
And
Okay,
perhaps if I can expand, can we expand, or that's it, 10 seconds, so I can pass on to the next, it's fine.
Yeah, so just to make it quick, and also for Dov and Maureen, any last words you want to say in regarding to how to help the SMEs?
Just a quick one, I think. I just want to say that I think for SMEs can run, but for sure cannot hide, because we must be ready and catch up and not lose out, no matter how, because we are all connected via a global supply chain. So we have to give up.
That's true. Yeah. And for me, there is no one single action, but I do think we need many small actions, but needs to be coordinated cohesively to really help SMEs to be ESG ready in a big way.
Yeah, thanks. So maybe I just come to our conclusion for this section then. Yeah, from your sharing, I'm seeing very positive messages, a lot of opportunities or improvement opportunities for the SMEs to adopt sustainable finance. And from Maureen, it's great that you're saying that in Malaysia or in the ASEAN economies, there are lots being done actually to help the SMEs to gain access to sustainable finance or to transition to low carbon economy. Also from Shahida, you're offering great data and system solutions, etc., to help the SMEs. So I believe the future is bright. So hopefully we are going to see more and more progress in sustainable finance for SME in the next few years. Thanks a lot for joining me in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.